What if the most peaceful, mystical, spiritually revered text in human history,
Right.
like the kind of book you find sitting on a little table in a yoga studio or a wellness retreat? What if that was actually a gritty, blood-soaked survival manual meant to keep you alive in a literal war zone?
Yeah, I mean, it completely upends literally everything we think we know about
Right.
ancient wisdom.
It really does. So, welcome to the deep dive. Today, we are going to completely shatter the way you think about one of the most famous ancient texts in the world, which is the Tao Te Ching.
Oh, yeah.
Because the stack of sources we are looking at today suggests that for centuries, we have been handed, well, the wrong map entirely.
Completely wrong now.
And to explain what I mean by that, I want you to imagine you are planning the trip of a lifetime to a city you've always dreamed of visiting.
Okay.
You go out and you buy the most beautiful, ornate map you can find. It has these gorgeous golden edges, elegant calligraphy, and it labels every destination with these grand, sweeping, poetic names.
Right, like the Plaza of Eternal Light or something. That's it.
Exactly. Or the Avenue of the Heavenly Sages.
It looks perfect. It looks like a piece of art that belongs in a frame, not stuffed in a dirty backpack.
Right. It sets this expectation in your mind of a pristine spiritual utopia. But then you actually get off the plane, you step out into the city, and you're standing in ankle-deep mud.
Yeah.
You're surrounded by loud, chaotic markets, the smell of livestock, people screaming at each other, merchants aggressively haggling over scraps of metal.
And that Plaza of Eternal Light is actually just a dusty trading post where people are bartering over sheep.
Exactly. And suddenly you realize that your beautiful map is not just useless, it's actively dangerous.
Oh, absolutely. It has completely misled you about the fundamental reality of the territory you are trying to navigate.
Right.
If you walk into a bustling, dangerous marketplace expecting a serene meditation garden, I mean, you are going to get fleeced, or worse.
And that is exactly what our sources are claiming has happened with the Tao Te Ching.
Hmm.
We are looking at a revolutionary new translation today. It's called the bare bones translation of the text.
Yeah, and we should clarify, this isn't based on the later, polished, heavily edited versions we are all used to seeing in bookstores.
No, not at all.
This is drawn directly from the oldest excavated texts ever found.
Right, specifically the Gutian bamboo slips, which are from around 300 BCE, and the Moangdui silk manuscripts from 168 BCE.
Which is wild because these are texts that were literally dug out of the earth. They predate the standardized versions by centuries.
Centuries, and we're analyzing this bare bones translation alongside a really fascinating companion piece called the Tao of Aesop.
I love this part.
Yeah, it reimagines these incredibly ancient, hyper-concrete concepts as animal fables. Now, if you were listening to this, you probably know the Tao Te Ching as this floaty, abstract, highly mystical book.
Right, it's full of sages meditating on mountaintops and heavenly virtues, cosmic dualities.
It's the kind of thing you read to feel serene and detached from the modern world.
But our sources argue that this entire vibe, that whole serene, incense-burning aesthetic, is just a catastrophic mistranslation.
Yeah.
The original text wasn't a mystical religious document at all. It was a hyper-concrete, brutally pragmatic operational manual rooted in the mud, sweat, and livestock of warring states China.
Okay, so let's unpack this, because we are going to look at this text through a very specific, rigorous framework today.
We really have to.
Yeah, if we want to understand how a survival manual got turned into a mystical poetry book, we need to channel the pioneering linguist Alfred Korzybski.
Oh, absolutely.
He's the one who famously coined the phrase, "The map is not the territory."
Which is such a vital concept for anyone trying to navigate information today. I mean, because Korzybski is pointing out a fundamental flaw in human cognition.
Right.
We confuse our descriptions of reality with reality itself.
Like the GPS example.
Exactly. If your GPS, which is your map, says there is a bridge ahead, but you look out the windshield and the bridge has collapsed.
You don't drive your car into the river just because the map said it was safe.
Exactly.
Right.
The territory is the ultimate truth. The map is just a flawed human approximation.
And what we are going to see today is how centuries of translators handed us a map of their own cultural biases, completely obscuring the ancient territory.
They drew bridges where there were only rivers.
Yeah. So to fix that map, the translator of this bare bones edition applies a meticulous, almost modern, German-style philological rigor.
And we should probably clarify what that actually means.
Please do.
Because German-style philological rigor sounds like the kind of phrase that makes people tune out immediately.
Honestly, when I first read that, I pictured an angry 19th century professor yelling at a chalkboard.
I mean, it's not far off. But in this context, it refers to a very specific, almost archaeological approach to language.
Okay.
Instead of asking, what profound spiritual meaning can I extract from this word? This approach asks, what physical material object was this word originally a picture of?
It strips away all the romanticized fluff.
Exactly. It looks strictly at the physical images, the actual pictures, carved into the ancient Chinese characters on oracle bones and bronze vessels.
So it's very literal?
Very literal.
Hmm.
It is a lens of economic materialism and structural realities, completely rejecting abstract philosophy.
So we are trading philosophy for physical engineering, basically.
Yeah.
And to help you, the listener, actually apply these ancient engineering principles to your own life's territory today, we are going to use those Aesop-style fables I mentioned earlier.
Right.
The sources suggest these fables act as a sort of neuro-linguistic programming, or NLP.
Which is just a brilliant mechanism, honestly.
Yeah, explain how that works.
Well, when we hear a direct instruction like be humble or don't be greedy, our conscious mind instantly throws up resistance.
Oh, sure, our ego gets defensive right away.
Exactly. But a fable uses indirect suggestion and metaphor. It bypasses your conscious resistance and plants these raw, ancient mental models directly into your subconscious.
Right, you don't argue with a story about a crow and an elephant.
No, you just absorb the structural lesson.
It's basically a Trojan horse for ancient behavioral coding.
That's a great way to put it.
So let's dive right into how this mystical illusion was built in the first place and how we dismantle it.
Let's do it.
The translator's note in our source material comes out swinging. It argues that the standard translations we all know, the ones that use big, lofty words like heaven, virtue, sage, and evil,
Right.
are not actually based on pictographic evidence at all.
No, they really aren't.
Yeah.
They are based on a game of historical telephone.
Telephone.
Yeah, they're based on repetition and inherited authority. You have to look at who was translating these texts into Western languages in the 18th and 19th centuries.
Okay, who were they?
Many of them were European scholars and Christian missionaries.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and they were steeped in Victorian morality, Greek philosophy, and Christian theology. So when they looked at these ancient Chinese texts, they naturally and perhaps unconsciously tried to map those familiar concepts onto a completely alien culture.
Which makes sense psychologically, I guess. When we encounter something completely foreign, our brains desperately try to categorize it using folders we already have.
Precisely. So one translator in the 19th century makes a choice to translate a character as virtue because it makes the text feel more palatable, more aligned with Western classical education.
Right.
And then the next generation of translators inherits that choice. And over decades and centuries, these choices calcify.
They harden into a standard.
Exactly, a standard that we now just accept as the objective truth. But if you look at the actual historical context of the Warring States period in China, around 400 to 200 BCE, these lofty Western concepts simply did not exist.
The source gives some pretty shocking examples of this projection.
Oh, yeah.
It says translating the Chinese character Tian as heaven actively imports a Christian cosmology into ancient China.
Which is wild.
And translating Dia as virtue imports a Greek philosophical framework.
And this is exactly the map versus territory problem Korzybski warned about.
Right.
When translators prefer abstraction over concrete reality, they completely sever the text from the physical world it came from.
So by using words like heaven and virtue, the standard translations are essentially handing us maps of a Western romanticized fantasy.
Exactly. They tell us a great deal about the psychological needs of 19th century European scholars.
But they tell us absolutely nothing about the ancient Chinese people who actually carved the words.
Nothing at all.
Wait, let me push back on this for a second.
Sure.
Are you saying that the spiritual value millions of people have found in the Tao Te Ching is just a complete misunderstanding? Because if I have a map of New York and someone translates Times Square as the Plaza of Eternal Light, they haven't just translated it, they've completely changed how I experience the city.
Yes.
I'm going to go looking for spiritual enlightenment in Times Square, which, I mean, good luck with that.
Right, yeah.
But is that what happened here? Have we literally been looking for spiritual enlightenment in a text that was just meant to keep you alive in a war zone?
That is exactly what the sources are arguing.
Ah.
You are projecting a religious framework onto a landscape that structurally just doesn't support it. Now, it doesn't mean you can't find personal peace in those older mistranslated versions.
All right.
But you are finding peace in a Victorian reflection of the text, not the text itself.
That is a massive distinction.
It is. To understand what is actually there, this German philological rigor demands that we stop looking at the English words and start looking at the raw characters.
Actual pictures.
Yes, ancient Chinese characters didn't start as abstract letters. They began as literal pictures carved into ox scapulae and turtle shells,
Oracle bones.
right, oracle bones, and later they were cast into massive bronze cauldrons. The bare bones translation restores these physical images.
Okay, let's look at the actual map then. The raw characters themselves. Let's start with the big one, the title track, Tao.
Oh, yeah.
We usually hear it translated as the way, which sounds like a mystical cosmic path. It sounds like something a Jedi talks about, you know?
But look at the actual pictographic components of the character. The character for Tao is composed of two distinct physical images.
Okay, what are they?
First, you have a head, specifically the character Shou, which depicts a head with hair or an eye.
A head?
And second, you have the radical for walking, Chou, which depicts a foot stepping forward on a crossroad.
So, a head and a foot stepping.
Yes, it is not a static, glowing road laid out before you waiting to be discovered.
Yeah.
It is the physical act of traveling itself.
Oh, wow.
It is a head leading feet forward through a living, changing landscape. It's an active, ongoing process of navigating the physical world. It's wayfinding.
A head leading feet.
Yeah.
That is so grounded. You can't just passively meditate on that. You have to actively do it.
Right.
And what about Te, the second word in the title? We usually hear the title translated as the Book of the Way and its virtue,
Yeah, virtue.
which always sounded to me like a moral judgment imposed from the outside. Like, society tells you what is virtuous. You know, don't steal, be polite, pay your taxes, and you have to conform to it to be a good person.
The bare bones character completely dismantles that external moral framework.
Really?
Completely. The ancient character Te is composed of three elements. You have a step chi, you have a straight gaze, which is literally an eye looking directly ahead.
Okay.
And this is all placed above the character for a heart scent.
A step, a straight gaze, and a heart.
Yes. So the translator of our source renders this not as virtue, but as self-alignment.
Self-alignment.
Think about the physical mechanics of those images. It means walking forward, taking a step, with your heart perfectly aligned to your own direct, straight perception.
Wow.
Is not about adhering to an external moral code dictated by a church or a state. It is the inner condition of being fiercely, unbreakably true to what you directly perceive in front of you.
So the Tao Te Ching isn't the book of the cosmic way and moral virtue. It's
Right.
more like the book of active wayfinding and self-alignment.
Exactly. And the implications of that shift are just massive. It shifts the burden of authority entirely. Well, you don't look up to the heavens for answers anymore. You look straight ahead of the territory, and you align your heart to what your eyes actually see.
And it gets even more radical when we look at words we translate as moral absolutes.
Oh, absolutely.
Take the character D. Standard translations constantly render this as moral evil.
Right.
In a Western Christian-influenced framework, evil implies a cosmic villain. It implies a dark, supernatural force actively opposing the good.
It implies a battle between angels and demons, right?
Yeah.
A fundamental corruption of the soul.
Right. But what does the ancient character 4E actually show?
It shows a twisted or distorted form, often depicted as a hunchback or a warped cross, sitting directly above a heart mind.
Above a heart mind.
Yes.
Mm.
Now, in ancient Chinese thought, the heart and the mind weren't separated like they are in the West. They were considered one single organ of thought and feeling, the sin.
Okay.
So E isn't a cosmic supernatural evil. It is quite literally a twisted heart.
A twisted heart.
Yes.
Mhm.
It's a distortion of the perceiving self.
Mhm.
It's a psychological condition. It's a lack of alignment. If your heart mind is twisted by greed or fear or ego, your straight gaze is compromised. You can no longer see the territory clearly, which means your Te, your self-alignment, is broken.
So it's an engineering failure of the human operating system, not some supernatural force out to get you.
Exactly.
It's incredible how much of what we consider ancient wisdom is actually just our own cultural projection staring back at us in a mirror.
It really is.
We've established that the abstract words are a false map. We've stripped away the Greek philosophy and the Christian cosmology. So the obvious question is, what is the real territory?
Right.
If these people weren't obsessed with heaven, virtue, and cosmic evil, what were they obsessed with?
Well, to understand that, we had to follow that rigorous lens of economic materialism we talked about.
Okay.
You have to look at the physical reality of the people who actually carved these words. Philosophy does not exist in a vacuum. It is entirely shaped by the material conditions of the culture that produces it.
Right, the actual dirt they lived on.
Exactly. And that brings us to an incredibly unexpected revelation in the sources.
Which is the realization that the core philosophy of this text is built entirely around an animal,
Yes,
specifically a sheep.
yes, the character Yang.
Yeah.
According to our sources, three of the most important quote-unquote moral terms in the Tao Te Ching words that have been translated as lofty, abstract ideals for centuries
Right.
actually contain the literal physical character for a sheep.
Okay, let's pause here. Why sheep?
It seems weird, right?
Yeah. If I'm an ancient Chinese philosopher trying to write a survival manual, why am I fixated on livestock?
Because in the Warring States period, pastoral economics was everything. This was an agrarian and pastoral society.
Okay.
Livestock equaled life. It equaled wealth, survival, and status. A flock of sheep wasn't just food. It was a mobile bank account.
Wow.
It was currency. It was social standing. The repetition of the sheep character isn't some quirky, poetic gimmick.
Right, it's not a metaphor.
No, it is a direct reflection of a culture where your entire existence depended on your ability to manage, protect, and utilize livestock in a highly volatile, violent environment.
So let's look at these three words because this completely shifts the paradigm. The first word is shan.
Right.
In the standard translations, this is almost always translated as good, like be a good person or the sage is good to all. It sounds very saintly.
But literally, the character Shan means sheep-skilled.
Sheep skilled.
Think about what it takes to be highly skilled with a flock of sheep.
It's hard work.
It requires intense practical competence. You have to be vigilant. You have to know the terrain intimately. You have to know exactly when to guide them, when to let them graze, how to protect them from predators, and how to keep them together during a storm.
So it's not about moral purity, it's about operational mastery. That completely changes the vibe of the text. It's like calling a mechanic good because they can tear down and rebuild a V8 engine with their eyes closed, not because they go to church every Sunday or volunteer at an animal shelter. It's pure operational competence.
Precisely.
Yeah.
When the text says someone is Shan at walking or Shan at leading, it isn't praising their moral character.
Right.
It means they handle the journey with the practiced, quiet, highly effective mastery of a veteran herder. They know the territory.
Okay, let's look at the second word. May. This is almost universally translated in the West as beautiful.
Right.
You see this in lines like, when the world knows beauty is beautiful, there's already ugliness. It sounds like an aesthetic meditation.
But look at the physical structure of the character May. It is composed of the character for sheep, placed directly above the character for big.
Big sheep.
Big sheep.
I love that, big sheep.
What's fascinating here is how clearly this ties aesthetics directly to material prosperity.
Oh, sure.
In a pastoral economy, what is beautiful? A well-fed, fat, thriving animal.
Because that means you're surviving.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That is the ultimate display of wealth and success. When the text talks about all beneath the sky knowing May, it isn't talking about abstract philosophical beauty, like a painting or a sunset.
Right.
Talk about prosperity. It's talking about wealth being displayed and admired by the community.
Like saying, wow, John's new sports car is very big sheep.
Yes, exactly.
It's a status symbol. It's tangible success. And the third word is yi, which is usually translated as righteous or justice.
The literal translation of yi is sheep sacrifice.
Wow.
It is composed of the character for sheep combined with the character for me, which itself actually contains the image of a spear or a jagged weapon.
My sheep on my blade.
Yes, my sheep on my blade. So righteousness isn't about standing on a soapbox and lecturing people about morality.
No.
It's the concrete, physical act of giving up your own valuable animal.
Yeah.
It's a personal, material sacrifice for the group or the ritual.
It costs you something real.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the translator's note in our source makes a very pointed critique here. These previous Victorian and Western translators didn't just accidentally miss the sheep.
Oh, really?
They actively chose to erase it. That silence was a deliberate choice.
Wait, they knew the sheep was there and just ignored it.
Yeah, they preferred the lofty heights of abstract philosophy to the muddy, smelly reality of livestock.
Oh.
They wanted a text that sounded like Plato, not a text that sounded like a farmer's almanac. But by making that choice, they erased the actual culture. They erased the map of the people who actually lived the
And
texts.
what's wild to me is that the source points out that sheep aren't even a foreign concept in Western spirituality.
Right.
We have the Lamb of God. We talk about the Lord being our shepherd. We have the German term Schäfchen, meaning little sheep, used as a term of endearment.
Exactly.
The shock isn't the animal itself. The shock is finding this muddy, physical animal hidden inside Chinese words that we had been told were purely conceptual and pristine.
It's jarring.
Yeah.
And to help bridge this gap between the ancient economic reality and our modern minds, the Tao of Aesop companion piece uses those animal fables you mentioned earlier.
Right.
Because remember, Korzybski, we need a new map that accurately reflects the territory, but our modern brains are stubborn.
Very
If I just lecture you about sheep skill, you might reject it. But these fables use NLP techniques, indirect suggestion, to install that map without triggering our modern biases.
I want to read one of these fables.
Please do.
This is Fable 2 from the source, titled The Sheep-Skilled Lamb. It's based on chapters 8 and 68 of the Bare Bones text. Listen to how it weaves these ancient concepts into a story.
Okay.
A young lamb lived in a spear-walled territory where all the other animals fought to be the big sheep of the herd. While the fierce rams engaged in twisted-hearted arguments to prove their bravery, the lamb remained soft and yielding. The lamb was sheep-skilled at finding the low ground. When a great storm turned the mountain paths into mud, the heavy, proud rams got stuck in the high crevices, trapped by their own weight and pride. But the lamb, moving like water, settled in the places the others disdained.
Right.
Because he did not contend with the mountain could not contend with him. He returned to his mother force, nourished and whole. Moral: the highest self-alignment is found in the sheep skill of placing yourself below others. So good. Let's break down the mechanics of what that fable is actually doing.
Let's do it.
Notice how it brilliantly weaves the literal translations of the ancient characters back into the narrative. We have the spear-walled territory.
Yeah, what is that?
That is the literal breakdown of the ancient character Guo, which standard translations usually just render as state or nation.
Oh, okay.
But spear-walled territory reminds you that this is a violent, enclosed place.
It's a literal war zone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Then we have the rams engaging in twisted-hearted arguments. That's our character E, twisted heart, replacing the word evil.
Right.
And what is their goal? They want to be the big sheep, which is May, replacing the word beautiful or glorious.
It makes the philosophy so visceral. The rams are up high on the mountain, posturing, fighting for status, acting tough.
Yeah.
They have a twisted heart because their ego is distorting their perception of reality.
Yeah.
And they literally get stuck and die when the reality of the storm hits.
The lamb survives not because it is morally pure, but because of sheep skill operational competence. It finds the low ground. It understands the territory.
If we connect this back to the bigger picture, it reinforces that the Tao Te Ching is an operational manual for surviving chaotic environments.
Right.
It's telling you that the ultimate survival strategy in a dangerous world, a spear-walled territory, is not dominance, aggression, or being the big sheep.
Right.
It is adaptability, observation, and yielding.
So if this is an operational manual based on practical, gritty competence, who is the person actually operating it?
That's the million-dollar question.
Because if you read the standard translations, they always tell us the ideal practitioner is a sage.
Right.
When I hear sage, I immediately picture an old man with a long white beard sitting cross-legged on a misty mountain, dispensing cryptic, magical wisdom to weary travelers.
Of course.
But the Bare Bones text reveals a completely different kind of professional.
Which brings us to the deconstruction of the word shengren. In almost every English translation of the Tao Te Ching, shengren is translated as sage or holy man.
But our source tells us to apply our German philological rigor again. Let's look at the oracle bone form of that character. What does the ancient picture actually show?
It is entirely devoid of mountaintop mysticism.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the ancient primitive form of the character Sheng shows a kneeling figure with an enormous ear.
An enormous ear.
Next to the ear is a mouth or a ritual vessel presenting something, and the figure is intensely listening for what comes back. The core, physical meaning is acute, receptive perception. It is the person who hears what others cannot.
An enormous ear. They are quite literally built for listening to the territory.
And the translation in our source uses a brilliant, jarring modern parallel to capture this. Instead of sage, they translate Shengren as the investigative reporter.
The investigative reporter. That is a massive paradigm shift. It almost feels too modern, too corporate maybe.
I mean, it's meant to be jarring. It's meant to shatter your mystical map. Sage implies a static authority figure.
Right.
A sage already possesses the absolute truth, and they sit on high, dispensing it to the ignorant masses. But look at how the actual text of the Tao Te Ching describes this person's behavior. The text explicitly says this person has no fixed heart mind. They treat people as straw dogs.
Okay, wait. Straw dogs sounds incredibly harsh. It sounds like they're a sociopath using people.
It's not malicious, it's utterly detached.
Oh.
A straw dog was a ceremonial object used in ancient Chinese rituals.
Okay.
Before and during the ritual, the straw dog is treated with the utmost reverence and fierce attention. But the moment the ritual is over, it is tossed aside and trampled. It
Wow.
means the investigative reporter gives a situation or a person their complete, total, unbroken attention for exactly as long as necessary, and then releases them completely without lingering emotional attachment.
That does sound exactly like an investigative reporter. Or a spy.
Precisely. In fact, the source notes a fascinating parallel with another character from the Warring States period, Dai.
What does that mean?
Dai was the word for a spy or a military intelligence gatherer. And the character for Dai is composed of carved words and a leaf tablet used for writing.
Oh, that's so specific.
The behavioral profile of the ancient spy is identical to the profile of the Sheng Ren.
Ugh.
Think about it. They enter the field in disguise. The text says they wear coarse cloth over their jade.
Right.
They observe without being seen. They record exactly what they find without editorializing or letting their own ego twist the data. And they move on without claiming credit.
Here's where it gets really interesting for me.
Yeah.
If I am reading the Tao Te Ching and
Yeah.
my map tells me I'm supposed to be a sage, I'm trying to attain some kind of holy purity. I'm trying to detach from the world, suppress my human urges, and be perfect.
You're trying to be above the mud.
Exactly. I'm trying to be better than everyone else.
Hmm.
But if I apply this new map, if I realize the ideal is actually to be an investigative reporter, my entire relationship to my own life changes. Yes, I'm not trying to be a guru. I am training to be an elite, detached observer of reality. I am gathering intelligence in the chaotic, spear-walled territory of modern life.
Exactly. You are learning to see the territory exactly as it is without the distortion of your own ego or your twisted heart mind.
Right.
You are observing the facts on the ground. You are listening with an enormous ear.
To really drive this operational strategy home, let's look at another fable from the Tao of Aesop. This is Fable 3, The Rhinoceros and the Investigative Reporter.
This one is great.
It's based on chapters 47 and 50 of the text.
Huh?
Let me read it. A great rhinoceros charged through the forest looking for a death ground to conquer. He sharpened his horn against common stones and furiously searched for an enemy to strike, eager to prove his dominance. Deep in the woods, he found the investigative reporter, a kneeling figure with an enormous ear who was simply listening to the ritual vessels of the sky. The rhinoceros huffed, pawed the dirt, and demanded, "Why do you not wear armor? Why do you carry no weapons to defend your body? I could crush you in an instant."
Classic rhino behavior.
Right. The reporter did not even peer through his window to look at the beast. He simply replied, "I have no need to travel to know the world. Because I clasp the uncarved wood and hold no craving, you will find no place to thrust your horn. I have no death ground for you to lodge your blade."
Wow.
The rhinoceros, confused by the twisted silk silence and finding no resistance to push against, simply turned away and left the reporter in peace. Moral: one who is sheep-skilled at holding life walks the land without meeting a rhinoceros or tiger.
So this fable perfectly illustrates the behavioral mechanics of the investigative reporter. The rhinoceros represents aggressive, ego-driven conflict.
Right.
It is actively seeking a death ground. In ancient Chinese military strategy, a death ground is a place of deadly, committed conflict where someone must win and someone must die.
I see this rhino constantly in modern life.
Oh, everywhere.
The rhinoceros is the person looking for a fight in the comment section on Twitter. They log on, sharpening their horn, desperate for someone to argue with.
Or it's the toxic coworker trying to drag you into office politics.
Exactly. They are charging through the corporate forest, desperate for an enemy to validate their own aggression because without the fight, they have no identity.
And how does the investigative reporter respond? Not by putting on armor, not by drawing a sword and fighting back,
No.
but by offering absolutely nothing for the horn to strike. They clasp the uncarved wood.
What does that mean in this context?
In the Tao Te Ching, the uncarved wood represents a state of simple, undefined potential. It hasn't been carved into a bowl or a weapon. It has no sharp edges. They hold no craving, no ego, no need to prove themselves right.
I have no death ground for you to lodge your blade. That line is incredible.
It really is.
Think about how you apply that in a meeting. Your boss or a rival coworker comes at you with an aggressive, loaded question trying to make you look stupid. They are the rhino.
Yep.
If you get defensive, if you bring your ego into the room, you have just created a death ground. You have given them a target. You are trying to be the big sheep.
And you're playing their game.
Right. But if you just sit there, clasping the uncarved wood and say, that's an interesting perspective, tell me more about why you see it that way, you offer no resistance. You just listen with your enormous ear.
And the aggressor, the rhino, literally gets confused by the silence. They have all this momentum, all this force, and they hit thin air.
They usually stumble over their own words and retreat. You win the conflict by not offering a target.
It is the ultimate martial art of the mind.
It really is. But this strategy of winning by not offering a target, of moving through the world without armor but remaining perfectly safe,
Right.
requires a very specific physical mechanics.
Yes, it does.
How do you actually act in the world without creating a death ground?
Well, that brings us to the core physics of the text and the famous concept of wu-wei.
Oh, okay. If you've heard anything about Taoism or read any pop psychology books on Eastern philosophy, you've probably heard of wu-wei. It's almost always translated as non-action or doing nothing, which, to be honest, always sounded to me like a philosophical excuse to just lie on the couch and avoid your responsibilities.
And again, applying our bare bones, structural map completely destroys that passive, lazy interpretation.
Okay, lay it on me.
Let's look at the pictograms. The first character, wu, means without or nothing. But it shares an ancient root with the character for dance.
Dance.
Yes. The original pictogram depicts a figure with arms spread wide, holding plumes or tassels, moving in a ritual dance. So wu isn't nothingness as a dead, empty void. It is dancing without.
Dancing without.
It is body moving freely, arms empty, unburdened by heavy objects.
Okay, and the second character, wei, is usually translated as to do, to act, or to make.
But look at the physical picture of wei. It is composed of a human hand placed near the head of an elephant.
A human hand leading an elephant.
Yes. The original image is someone trying to steer, force, or control a creature that vastly outweighs them.
Ew.
In ancient context, an elephant is a massive, incredibly powerful force of nature. Trying to force it to do what you want by pulling on it is exhausting, dangerous, and ultimately futile.
It's going to go where it wants to go.
Exactly.
Mm.
We represents forcing, meddling, imposing your will on something massive and complex.
So if you put them together, wu-wei isn't doing nothing. It's dancing without forcing.
Yes.
It's recognizing that the world, the economy, your relationships, the spear-walled territory that is the elephant,
That is the elephant.
you cannot arm wrestle the elephant. You have to move with it. You have to let the elephant walk on its own.
If we connect this to the bigger picture of our structural analysis, the ancient Chinese viewed emptiness not as a lack of something, but as a highly functional tool.
Interesting.
It's an engineering principle. Emptiness is what makes things work.
The source gives a great example regarding the limits of language itself, which ties right back to Korzybski and our maps.
Oh, the key character, yes.
Yeah, the character K, which is usually translated as can or may, actually shows a mouth hitting a nail or a block.
Yes, the nail of the cow is literally drawn inside the word. With the very first, most famous line of the Tao Te Ching says, in standard translation, the Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. That word can is K.
Wow.
The text is visually, structurally telling you that whatever can be spoken hits a physical limit in the speaking. Language itself is a boundary.
It is a block.
It is a block. The map can never capture the full, infinite territory of the elephant. The moment you name it, you've limited it.
To see how this physics of nothingness actually operates in everyday life, let's look at another fable. Fable Y, The Crow and the Great Hub. This is based directly on chapter 11 of the text.
This is a classic one.
Yeah. A greedy crow once sat upon the axle of a heavy supply cart. He hopped from piece to piece, counting each of the 30 spokes, and boasted to the other animals, "Look at this fine, solid wood. Look at the craftsmanship. It is the wood that carries the grain to the Axe King's palace. The wood is the most important thing in the world."
The crow loves this stuff.
He does. A wise elephant, who was dancing without forcing as he pulled the heavy cart, stopped and looked back at the boasting bird. "Little crow," the elephant said, "you see the wood, but you do not see the nothingness. If there were no empty hole in the center of that hub, the axle could not pass through. The wheel would not turn, and your precious cart would be nothing but a heavy, useless pile of sticks." Moral: we find benefit in what is, but we find the true use in what is not.
This is a perfect illustration of Krzyzewski's principles applied via ancient engineering.
Right.
The crow, representing our conventional modern materialistic mindset, only values the tangible, the wood, the spokes, the things you can count, touch, and measure, the what is.
The crow is obsessed with the resume, the bank account, the job title, the square footage of the house, the solid stuff.
Exactly. But the elephant, who understands the physical mechanics of wu-wei, points out the structural necessity of the empty space.
Right.
Without the hole in the hub, the empty space, the what is not, the spokes are completely useless. The wheel cannot turn. The empty space is the only thing that allows the entire complex system to function.
Think about your own calendar right now. Are you acting like the crow? We spend our whole lives obsessing over the spokes.
We really do.
We pack our schedules with back-to-back meetings, we hoard possessions, we try to make every single moment productive. We are terrified of the empty hub, we are constantly forcing the elephant.
Always forcing it.
But the actual utility of our lives, our ability to actually move forward, adapt, and process information, comes from the empty space in the middle. Our downtime, our silence, our uncommitted hours, the times when we are just dancing without forcing.
That is the profound realization of this text. The nothingness is not a void. It is the functional center of the wheel. If you fill the hub with wood, the cart breaks.
It does. But let's be honest here. Finding comfort in that empty space, learning to stop forcing the elephant, requires immense discipline.
Oh, yeah. It looks easy when you watch someone do it. It looks effortless.
But it is incredibly hard to achieve. And this brings us to the final and perhaps the most rigorous and profound translation in the entire text. It's a word that shows just how much hard, grueling physical labor goes into looking effortless.
We are talking about the deconstruction of the word Schwen.
Schwen.
In standard mystical translations, it is usually rendered as mysterious, profound, or dark.
Like the mysterious Tao, the dark valley. It sounds like a magic trick. It sounds like something inherently unknowable.
But again, that translation flattens the character and completely loses the physical economic reality. The literal ancient character for Schwen depicts twisted silk fibers.
Twisted silk fibers.
And the translator's note in our source goes into incredible detail about what this actually meant in the ancient world and why it is so crucial to understanding the philosophy.
I want to read this description directly from the source because it is stunning and it really anchors everything we've talked about today.
Now, please read it.
It says, raw silk had to be wrung and twisted by hand into hard physical work, requiring immense strength in the hands and forearms, and the obsessive skill to keep the twist uniform. Too loose and the thread breaks in the loom. Too tight and it kinks. Master twisters were elite specialists.
Is a grueling physical craft.
Yeah.
And the dyeing process to achieve the color of Schwen was even more intense.
How did they do it?
Once the silk was woven, it was dipped into an indigo vat, removed, left to oxidize in the air, and dipped again. Each pass darkened it one tiny shade. To achieve the specific color of Schwen, it required dozens of dippings over many, many days.
The source says it passed through every nameable color into an almost black that still held a deep reddish warmth when the light caught it just right, the color of the sky and the narrow window between sunset and full dark.
In that culture, to wear Schwen cloth was to display immense status, but more importantly, to make it was to be recognized as a master of unbelievable patience, physical strength, and craft. You could not rush the process. You could not force the dye. You could not fake it. As the translator profoundly notes, the darkness itself was proof of the work.
The darkness itself was proof of the work. That gives me chills.
This is exactly why the translator refuses to translate the word as mysterious.
Okay.
Translating it as mysterious implies something magical, something gifted by the gods, something you can't understand. But Schwen isn't magic.
It is the exact opposite of magic.
Right. It is the accumulated result of hidden, repetitive, agonizing physical labor. The modern rigorous lens demands we leave it untranslated to force the reader to confront that physical reality. Because as the translator notes, every compression is a betrayal.
Wow.
If you compress Schwen into mystery, you betray the worker whose hands bled to make it.
So what does this all mean for us? If we take this concept of Schwen, that darkness is proof of deep, repeated labor, how does that change how we view our own struggles?
It shifts everything.
We all go through periods of darkness. We feel like we are stuck in the mud, doing the same repetitive, frustrating tasks over and over. We aren't getting the promotion, we aren't seeing the results, the relationship is struggling.
Yeah.
But maybe that darkness isn't a mystical void. Maybe it's a dye vat. Maybe you are just being conditioned layer by layer, dip by dip. You are gathering the dye.
This raises an important question about how we view mastery in any field.
Yeah.
We look at a master, whether it's an elite athlete, a brilliant musician, or an investigative reporter, flawlessly navigating a corporate crisis without offering a death ground, and their actions look like wu-wei.
They look effortless.
They look like they are dancing without forcing.
But that effortlessness is only possible because of the Schwen, the grueling, repetitive hidden labor they put in beforehand. They twisted the silk until their hands cramped. They dipped it in the vat 100 times so that when the moment came, they could act without armor and let the elephant walk. The mystery is just unseen sweat.
It completely grounds the philosophy. You don't achieve self-alignment, Tyree, by wishing for it on a mountaintop. You achieve it through the daily, sheep-skilled labor of untwisting your heart-mind.
This has been an unbelievable journey. We have traveled from a false, romanticized map of mystical sages and heavenly virtues straight into the raw, muddy territory of the ancient text.
We really have.
We've seen a world governed by pastoral economics, where survival meant having the operational sheep skill of a herder, not the moral purity of a monk.
We've replaced the static, arrogant guru with the active, receptive intelligence gathering of the investigative reporter.
And we've learned that wu-wei isn't laziness, but the structural engineering of empty space, the functional hub of the wheel.
Right.
And we've seen how Aesop-style fables, acting as a form of ancient NLP, can bypass our modern cynical defenses and plant these survival-tested maps directly into our subconscious.
And, you don't need to be an ancient philosopher or an academic to use this tech.
No, you don't.
This is a bare-bones manual for your life right now. Whether you are dealing with a charging rhino at work and need to remember to clasp the uncarved wood and offer no death ground.
Or you are trying to stop forcing the elephant in your personal relationships.
Right. Or you are just trying to find the functional use in the nothingness of your daily schedule so your wheel can actually turn. These tools are built for survival and alignment.
They are maps that actually match the territory.
They really are.
Before we go, we want to leave you with one final, very quiet image from the source material to ponder. The text mentions an ancient character error, which the translator renders as beard growing into.
I love this one.
It literally depicts a beard hanging from a chin. It represents those slow, transitional moments in life where one state slowly, imperceptibly becomes another, like the phrase bent beard growing into whole.
It takes time to grow a beard. You can't force it to grow faster by pulling on it.
Right.
It happens in the quiet moments. It is the ultimate expression of letting the elephant walk.
So look at your own life right now. Look at the territory you are standing in. Are you trying to force a sudden dramatic change? Are you trying to arm wrestle the elephant?
Because you probably are.
Yeah, we all do it. Or can you find the patience, the schwen, to simply let your current state beard grow into the next one? Take a hard look at the map you've been using and ask yourself, are you actually paying attention to the mud beneath your feet?